Okay, finally, before we get into the skills, you need to understand a little bit about thresholds and the stimulus gradient. What is a threshold? A threshold is like a doorway for your dog's emotional states. Just like a threshold of a home, this is a threshold for emotions. It's a dog's capacity to cope with a trigger. And the stimulus gradient is the scale of how difficult that trigger is. So we can have three different positions for being in or at or over threshold for dogs. We have under, this is a good space for learning. We have at threshold, this is where guidance is needed. The dog is starting to get worked up. And then we have over threshold, this is where they're out of their brain a little bit and intervention is needed. This presentation will be set up so you will learn two skills at each threshold level. And this will look different for every dog. Some dogs hit the pavement and some fly off the handle. Every dog will handle stress a little differently. This is why I'm going to show you how to use a certain technique that's a little more general. We're not going to talk about specific body language behaviors. We're going to make it very general so that it fits every dog. In her ACE free work course, Sarah Fisher discusses the link between posture and behavior and uses the imagery of a pendulum to observe our dogs more objectively. I love this reminder that there's such a strong connection between our dogs' bodies and their brains. They wear their emotions openly if we're willing to stop and notice. So, we're going to look at our dog and imagine each part of the dog like a pendulum. Obviously, the pendulum can be neutral. This is relaxed and neutral. When you look at that part of the dog, you're going to say, what would the neutral pendulum be for this? What would be the relaxed neutral state? And then you're going to notice how far off from neutral is that part of the dog. That's where the pendulum has begun swinging. This technique does not require you to memorize any body language, and you don't need to stress about what anything means. So let's go through some examples quickly. The eyes, they can be soft, neutral eyes. Or, swinging the pendulum just a little bit on one side of the spectrum, they can be a focused stare, like when your dog sees a squirrel across the yard. On the other side, the pendulum has swung this way a little bit. Dogs can have an avoidant whale eye, where you see a lot of the whites of their eye. Nose and mouth. Newfies should have a soft, neutral mouth. Their jowls nice and loose. On one side, a tight, dry mouth, and on the other side, a big smile pant with excessive drool. This is an example of three dogs who are off. And I want you to try to notice what the spectrum here for dogs' mouths would be. So we have a very large pant there. The dog's tongue is huge. Again, we have a dog who's very stressed. Their tongue is huge. And this is the other side of the spectrum. We also have a dog who's stressed, but her mouth is very tight. You can see some excessive drool there. Her cheeks are very tight and taut. How about ears? Dogs should have a neutral ear position, but ears can also be pulled way back. Or if you think about opening a bag of potato chips in the kitchen, you might notice your dog's ears shoot forward. And you might be thinking, yeah, but Newfies have such floppy ears. Dogs have 18 muscles in their ears, so they can absolutely control the position. How about a dog's stance? You should be able to imagine a dog is like under a square in that balanced, neutral stance. However, you can also have dogs on either side of the spectrum. It's like a rhombus. Dogs are up forward on their toes, or they're way back curled downward. Tail should be a neutral tail carriage is going to be nice and relaxed, but you can have a flag tail way up over their back or a tucked tail way up under their belly. So you're going to go through each portion of the dog and notice what neutral would be and then how far off from neutral a dog can be. We're going to go ahead and do a little pop quiz or trial run of this now using a dog who was in foster with the NNR. She had some amazing foster parents who got these videos for us. So, right off the bat with this dog, I can notice that her tail, which is the most obvious thing there, is really high. She's carrying her tail very high, whereas at home, when she's relaxed, it's much more low. The other thing we can notice is that she's stretching her legs way back in the back there. Her back legs are stretched way back. Whereas at home, when she's walking around, she's much more like a square underneath her. It's very balanced and neutral. And how about her face there? Her pant is very tight and taut. It's pulled. Her cheeks are very pulled. Whereas at home, when she's relaxed and neutral, it's much more calm looking. We can also use this pendulum method to gauge behavior as well. Let's take appetite, for example. When you're out on a walk, gauging threshold might be saying, is my dog land sharking treats out of my hand? So you're afraid of losing a finger? Or is your dog refusing food altogether? Is your dog sniffing like they're zigzagging like they think they're a tracking dog? Or are they all eyes and no nose, not using their nose at all? I've noticed reactive dogs tend to be hypervigilant with their eyes and not use their nose very much. This will take practice. Unfortunately, there's no quick fix to noticing body language. It's something you just have to do at home, where you go through each part of your dog and observe them. Next time the doorbell rings or somebody's in the kitchen and your dog hears them, start noticing those little details.